Most men believe betrayal only happens to the careless husband, the irresponsible one, the man who neglects his family or treats his partner poorly. But what if the truth is far more unsettling than that? What if the man most likely to be blindsided is not the cruel man, not the selfish man, but the man who spent years trying to be the good one, the man who works hard, stays quiet, avoids conflict, and believes that patience and kindness are enough to secure loyalty? Because if you think that being a good man, providing stability, and never raising your voice is some kind of invisible shield that guarantees your wife will never look elsewhere, you may be standing inside one of the most dangerous illusions a man can live under. Behavioral observations across countless relationships suggest something uncomfortable but undeniable. Many men today are being quietly punished for the very qualities they believed would protect their marriage. The traits they thought would build admiration, endless patience, constant understanding, always compromising, always smoothing things over, sometimes become the exact traits that erode attraction over time. And this is where the harsh psychological reality begins to reveal itself. When a man slowly shifts from being a grounded leader into becoming a constant pleaser, something subtle but powerful happens beneath the surface of the relationship. He believes he is creating safety, but what he may actually be creating is predictability so complete that the emotional spark begins to suffocate. He believes he is protecting harmony, but in doing so, he quietly removes tension, boundaries, and consequences, the very things that often maintain respect. Psychological patterns show that when a man abandons leadership in favor of endless accommodation, he doesn't necessarily become more valued. Sometimes he becomes taken for granted. The man who never pushes back becomes the man whose standards disappear. The man who never says enough becomes the man who can be tested without consequence. And once that dynamic sets in, admiration can slowly mutate into something else entirely, something far less respectful. Many men were raised with a simple formula: follow the rules, be loyal, work hard, be patient, treat her well, and in return you will earn devotion and stability. It sounds fair, it sounds logical, but for some of you listening right now, that unspoken contract collapsed without warning. One day you believed everything was stable, and the next day you discovered something you never imagined could happen to you. Messages you weren't meant to see, conversations that felt like a punch to the chest, or maybe just the slow realization that the woman who once admired you now speaks about you with subtle indifference. And the question that haunts so many men in that moment is painfully simple: how did this happen when I did everything right? That confusion is not weakness. It is the result of believing a relationship model that was never fully explained to you. Because the uncomfortable truth is this: kindness without boundaries can become permission. Patience without leadership can become invisibility. Loyalty without standards can become vulnerability. None of these traits are wrong by themselves, but when they exist without strength behind them, they stop inspiring admiration and start signaling that nothing will ever be challenged. And in human psychology, the absence of consequences often opens the door to behavior that would never have been attempted otherwise. This is why so many men wake up to betrayal and feel like the ground has disappeared beneath their feet. They believed their consistency would protect them. They believed their sacrifice would be appreciated. They believed being the nice one meant being the safe choice forever. But relationships are not governed by fairness. They are governed by dynamics, perception, attraction, and respect. And when those dynamics shift, the man who thought he was protecting the relationship can suddenly realize he was unknowingly weakening his position inside it. If you are one of the men who has ever sat alone, wondering how you followed every rule and still ended up betrayed, overlooked, or replaced, then you need to pay attention to every second of what comes next. Because today we are going to confront something most people are too uncomfortable to say out loud. The version of you that believed endless niceness would guarantee loyalty has to be examined, challenged, and ultimately buried. Not because kindness is wrong, but because kindness without strength invites dynamics that slowly destroy respect. And if you don't understand how that process unfolds, you can spend years repeating the same pattern, believing you are doing everything right while the foundation beneath you quietly collapses. What you are about to hear is not meant to comfort you, it is meant to wake you up. Because once you see these patterns clearly, you will never again confuse being a good man with being a powerless one. And that realization alone can completely change the way your future relationships unfold. I'm not here to impress the crowd. I'm here for the man quietly rebuilding his life brick by brick. The man who got hurt but didn't stay broken. The man who learns the hard lesson and chose growth anyway. If that's you, don't stay in the background. Subscribe. Stand with men who are choosing strength the right way. Leave a comment and let your presence be known. No hype, no chaos, just discipline, direction, brotherhood. The first psychological truth we must dismantle is the myth of the moral debt. Behavioral observations suggest that the nice guy operates under a secret trade. If I am perfectly good, you must be perfectly loyal. Psychological patterns show that this is not a relationship, it is a transaction that women never actually signed up for. When you act like a pleaser, you are essentially trying to buy her fidelity with your subservience. But the reality is that attraction and respect are not bought, they are earned through strength and boundaries. You are the victim of ethical blindness when you realize that your good deeds didn't make her love you more, they just made her feel like she could do whatever she wanted because you were too nice to ever leave. You weren't being a good husband, you were being a safe doormat, and doormats eventually get stepped on.
We also have to analyze the emasculation of the provider. Behavioral patterns show that when a man is too nice, he stops being a man in the eyes of a cheating partner and starts being a utility. Psychological observations suggest that a woman who is looking to cheat often views her nice guy husband as a father figure or a safety net, but never as a lover. She respects the checkbook, but she doesn't respect the man holding it. You are the victim of functional replacement when she uses your stability to fund the life she is sharing with a man who actually challenges her. She hates that you are nice because it makes her feel guilty, so she dehumanizes you to justify her actions. She tells herself you are boring or soft just so she can sleep at night after sleeping with someone else. Let's look at the path of Marcus. Marcus was the ultimate nice guy. He was a middle school teacher, a man who volunteered on weekends, and a man who never missed an anniversary. He believed that love meant total surrender. When Marcus found out his wife, Sarah, was having a long-term affair with a bad boy from her past, Marcus didn't get angry. He didn't pack her bags. Marcus is the loser in our story because he suffered from the negotiation of the spirit. When he caught her, he actually asked her, "What did I do wrong? How can I be better for you?" He thought that by being nicest during the betrayal, he could shame her back into loving him. Psychological patterns show that this was the final nail in the coffin of her respect for him. Sarah didn't see a forgiving husband, she saw a man with zero backbone. She stayed for 6 more months, taking his extra effort, his gifts, and his kindness, all while she continued to meet the other man in secret. Marcus ended up psychologically evicted. He lost his self-respect because he spent his dignity trying to buy back a woman who was already sold to someone else. Marcus found out the hard way that you cannot love a person into respecting you if they have already decided you are harmless. He was a victim of compassion fatigue, proving that the man who tries to be nicer after being betrayed is just financing his own humiliation. He didn't lose Sarah, he lost the manhood he should have used to protect himself. He became a warning label for every man who thinks niceness is a shield. It's not a shield, it's a target. The second major psychological pattern is the attraction of the void. Behavioral observations suggest that niceness without edge creates a psychological void in a relationship. A woman who is wired for excitement or challenge will feel starved in a house full of agreeableness. Psychological patterns show that she will go looking for friction elsewhere. You are the victim of polite erasure when your lack of conflict leads to a lack of connection. She hates being asked, "Where were you?" by a nice guy because she knows she can just cry or get angry and he will back down to keep the peace. Her hate for your questions is actually contempt for your softness. Furthermore, we must address the predictability trap. Behavioral patterns show that a nice guy is 100% predictable. She knows exactly what you will say, where you will be, and how you will react. Psychological observations suggest that predictability is the death of desire. When a man is never the same after betrayal, it's because he has finally introduced unpredictability back into his life. But for the nice guy who stays nice, he is just safe food while she craves a wild feast. You are the victim of security boredom. You provided the life, but you stopped providing the man. The reality is that the nice guy is a mask. Behavioral observations suggest that many men use niceness as a defense mechanism because they're afraid of conflict or rejection. Psychological patterns show that this fear is what a cheater smells on you. She knows you won't leave. She knows you won't flip the table. She knows you will wait for her to figure things out. You are the chief funding officer of her adventures because you are too nice to cut the credit card. When you realize that your kindness was actually weakness in disguise, that is when the era of the nice guy ends. You have to realize that respect is the currency of the sovereign man. Behavioral observations suggest that a man who is too nice is a man who is bankrupt. You are the source. If the receiver is mocking the source must stop the flow. Do not be the man who apologizes for being betrayed. Be the man who accepts the truth, hardens his heart, and exits the building. You are the king. A king doesn't ask for loyalty with cookies. He demands it with consequences.
I don't create videos for the average mindset. I make it for the man who holds himself accountable when nobody's watching. The man who can say no to distractions, not because he's controlled, but because he's in control. If you're looking for comfort, this won't resonate. But if you're building discipline, rebuilding your standards, and refusing to stay average, you belong here. Most people watch, nod, and disappear. But if you're different, prove it. Subscribe, leave a comment. Not for me, for you. Let this be the moment you stop consuming and start committing. The third psychological reason the nice guy era must end is the elimination of the safety net. Behavioral observations suggest that a cheating woman relies on your niceness to act as a buffer against the consequences of her actions. She knows that even if she gets caught, your nice guy nature will lead you to talk it out, go to therapy, or give her another chance. Psychological patterns show that this safety net is what actually enabled the affair to last so long. You are the victim of enabling altruism when your kindness becomes the oxygen that her betrayal breathes. When you stop being nice, you remove the net. You become dangerous because you become final. She hates the new you because she can no longer predict your forgiveness. We also have to analyze the shift from requesting to commanding. Behavioral patterns show that a nice guy asks for respect. A sovereign man commands it by his presence and his willingness to walk. Psychological observations suggest that a woman who cheats has already voted on your leadership with her actions. She has decided you are not the captain, you are the plane. You are the victim of mutiny through mediocrity when you realize that your niceness was seen as weakness in the high seas of a marriage. To end the nice guy era, you must stop asking her to be faithful and start being a man who doesn't tolerate unfaithfulness. The difference is subtle, but it is the difference between a victim and a king. Let's look at the path of Dominic. Dominic was a man who grew up believing that the man's job was to make the woman happy at any cost. He was a peacekeeper. When he found out his wife, Elena, had been entertaining men at her workplace for months, Dominic didn't beg. He didn't ask what he did wrong. Something inside him snapped.
the nice guy simply evaporated. Dominic is the winner in our story because he utilized the law of strategic detachment. He didn't yell. He didn't cry. He simply walked into the bedroom, packed a single bag, and told Elena, "The version of me that cared about your excuses is dead. My lawyer will handle the rest." He blocked her on everything. He didn't give her the satisfaction of a grand argument. Dominic realized that silence is the ultimate weapon against a woman who uses noise to manipulate. While Elena was panicked because she couldn't nice-talk him back into the cage, Dominic was at a boxing gym reclaiming his aggression and his focus. Dominic won because he stayed sovereign. He didn't hate Elena, he erased her from the priority list. He stayed sovereign because he realized that a man who is too good to be true is usually too weak to be respected. He became a master of finality, proving that the strongest man is the one who closes the book without reading the last chapter. He didn't fix the marriage, he saved himself. The fourth major reason is the recovery of the primal edge. Behavioral observations suggest that niceness is a social construct that civilizes men into compliance. Psychological patterns show that a man who has been betrayed needs to rewild his spirit. He needs to get back in touch with his instincts, the ones that told him something was off months ago but were shushed by his nice guy conditioning. You are the victim of intuitional suffocation when you realized you knew she was cheating, but you lied to yourself because you wanted to be the good guy. Ending the nice guy era means trusting your gut more than you trust her smile. Furthermore, we must address the sovereignty of personal standards. Behavioral patterns show that a nice guy has flexible standards based on his fear of loss. A sovereign man has rigid standards based on his self-respect. Psychological observations suggest that once you end the era, you no longer adjust for anyone. If a woman crosses the line, she is out. There is no discussion. There is no second chance. You are the victim of boundary erosion until the day you decide that your integrity is worth more than her presence. The final realization is that true kindness requires strength. Behavioral observations suggest that a man who is nice because he is weak is just harmless. A man who is kind because he is strong is sovereign. Psychological patterns show that after betrayal, you stop being harmless. You become dangerous but disciplined. You are the guardian. If the person inside the walls is opening the gates for the enemy, you don't negotiate, you remove the person. The reality is that the nice guy was a character you played for an audience that didn't applaud. Behavioral observations suggest that you were performing for a critic who was already cheating on the play. You are the source. You are the director. If the lead actress is sabotaging the production, you cancel the show. Do not be the man who begs for a better script. Be the man who writes a new life, where niceness is a reward for loyalty, not a default for disrespect. I have a smart question for the men who have the sovereign fortitude to finish this analysis on the end of the nice guy. If you were guarding a vault and the person you loved kept giving away the combination to strangers, would you keep being nice to them while they emptied your wealth, or would you change the lock and revoke their access forever? You are the vault. Your honor is the wealth. The cheater is the betrayer of the code. Stop guarding people who are selling your secrets. Drop a comment below and tell the Brotherhood what was the exact moment you realized your niceness was being used against you. Was it a specific lie she told, or the look on her face when she realized you wouldn't fight back? How did you kill the nice guy inside you, and what does the new man look like today? Share your transition to sovereignty. Your hardness might be the armor a brother needs to stop being a victim and start being a leader. Let's build the council of sovereign men together. The fact that you're still here tells me something about you. You don't run from uncomfortable truths. You sit with them, you learn from them, and you apply them. That's rare. So understand this.
You're not just watching content, you're building yourself in real time. And men who choose growth like that don't walk alone here. If this message sharpened you even a little, subscribe and stand with this community. Drop a comment and let me know what hit home. I pay attention. Keep tightening your standards. Keep doing the work. I'll see you in the next one.